All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. For today's video, we're going to cover the weekly watch list as well as the economic calendar for the week ahead. So, pretty big week. Taking a look at the calendar here. All right. So, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, for the most part, out of all these days, we do want to pay close attention to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, so on Tuesday, we do have core CPI. And then on Wednesday, we have PPI, US retail sales, and then a couple of Fed speakers throughout the day. And then Thursday, we do have initial jobless claim numbers coming out. And then again, a couple more Fed speakers throughout the day. And then Friday, right, we do have building permits there with multiple Fed speakers. So pretty big week. You definitely want to pay close attention to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? Out of any other day, that the core CPI and the core PPI will definitely be the main focal point for the week. So yeah, it'll be an interesting week, especially off of the last 2 weeks where we've just been absolutely ripping to the upside. I do think a pullback is warranted, and that we definitely need one, but that doesn't mean that the market will, right? We can definitely continue to move higher. And see some more upside. So it's just going to be about day-to-day price action. What are we seeing throughout the day in terms of the price action? Are we holding lower highs and making lower lows, or are we holding higher lows and making higher highs, right? So yeah, again, keep an eye on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for that data. This is definitely, this week you definitely do want to keep, a close eye on the calendar, because with the Fed speakers, we could see quick little intraday moves, right? So you want to be aware of when the Fed speakers come out, and again, the topic of their discussion. Okay. All right. So let's jump into it. Favorite setups for this week. The first one we have here is TSM. Okay, so TSM last week, we ended up taking a position on this on Friday over this 95 resistance range. Okay, looking at a pre-market, very strong day. Ended up breaking over that pre-market high of 94.80. We took calls over 95, ended up rallying all the way into a high of about 97.75, right? And closed very, very close to high day. Taking a look at the weekly, right? Also, we're holding a higher low here. We're making a higher high. Again, that's over that 95 mark. So we do have a pretty important range of about 98 to 100. But I believe that if we can clear 98, which is the level that I'm looking at for an entry on a continuation off of the breakout of last Friday, if we do get through 98, then I believe 100 can come. And if it ends up reclaiming 100, this thing can definitely move another 2 points, maybe even 4 points over the course of 1 to 2 weeks. So definitely do like this one. This will be one of my favorite setups for the week ahead. If we do see a pullback on TSM tomorrow, the first area I would look for will be about 96.80. Okay, that line there, and then another pullback into 95. Okay, if it does pull back all the way to 95, I definitely would be a little bit on the cautious side. It would be given back, the majority of the move from Friday, and that could show, a good amount of weakness. But anywhere in this range of, 96.80 to 95, I believe could be a pretty decent dip buy opportunity. So definitely we'll be keeping an eye on that. If we don't see the pullback and we just get the move through 98, then I will be looking at calls for a move up into 100 as the main target. Okay, so about 2 points of upside. Definitely do believe that TSM could do it. I like the volume that we had on Friday, right? Especially out of this little consolidation. So I like TSM for continuation. But again, the two areas I would look for an entry. First one obviously is 98 for that breakout, and then around 96.80. All right, next one here is coin. All right, so coin here, we do have an inside day on this one. And last Thursday, monster breakout, ended up seeing that 100 level. Got about, I think, about 18 cents away before pulling back. And then on Friday, we tried to get through 96 again, but we were unable to do so. So this week, coin, if this can get the reclaim of 96, then I do like calls for a push up into 100. Okay, if coin ends up reclaiming 100, then this thing should be able to move another 2 to 3 points, maybe even 5 points if we do, if this one is paired with a catalyst. But huge amount of sellers there on Thursday, right under that 100 level. And we could see here we kind of popped higher, got really close, and then volume ended up picking up pretty nicely on the breakdown off of that 100 test. So for this week, if we can get through 96, hold 96, then calls will be in play again for a push up into that 100 range. That is kind of the main target. Now, if coin ends up breaking back under 92, then puts can be in play for a back test of 90. And then if we fail at 90, the next support ultimately is around 86.50. Okay, so I do like this one for a move in either direction, but it has to either get under 92 for puts or back through 96 for calls. All right, now Meta here, probably one of my favorite setups as well for this week. And the main levels that I'm really looking at here, 326.20. All right, and then ultimately 330. Okay, looking at the weekly here, really strong weekly chart. We're in like a bull consolidation here, holding higher lows on the weekly, and we're back into this higher high mark. So if Meta can end up clearing that 326.20 level first, which we did on Friday, notice how we backtested this level multiple times intraday. We spent, almost 3 hours kind of backtesting 326.20, but we did end up holding and we closed basically at high a day on Friday. So again, one of my favorite names for continuation. It just has to get through 330 for that continuation, or we see a back test of 326.20 to look for calls. Okay, I like the volume, how volume is kind of slightly increasing here. So ideally we can get through 330, volume continues to hold, or Meta has some sort of catalyst, but definitely will be a favorite of mine if this can end up clearing 330 there. All right, so Microsoft is the next one. New all-time highs on Friday, just an absolute monster move. Was able to kind of lead the overall market there. We ended up moving 2.5% there on Friday and closed at new all-time highs. So with Microsoft, it's all about 370. You can see that we tested 370 there into the close at the high of 370.10, and ended up pulling back right before the close. So for this week, 370 is going to be the main focus of mine, or we can see a back test of that previous all-time high at around 367. So if Microsoft pulls back into 367 and we see that the price action is holding, right, we can look for calls as a back test entry for a push back up into 370. Let's say Microsoft kind of pulls back only into about like 368, 368.50, then we'll look for calls over 370 for that continuation on the breakout. But definitely one of my favorites. Volume really since earning has just been consistent. It's been consistent. We've been holding near the 50-day moving average. So it's been great. Definitely something you do want to see here. We ended up pulling back, had a slight little pullback, and then we just absolutely ripped on Friday. So definitely do like this for continuation. The best case though is we do see a pullback in that 367 range to get a back test entry to kind of, make the R&R on this position a little bit better. All right. Now the next one is Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs is an inside week, okay, and an inside day. Oops, and an inside day here. So the way that I want to trade Goldman Sachs this week is if we can get through 327. Okay, if we get through 327, I will be looking at calls for a move into 330, and then if it can clear 330 here, we do have about another 3 points, potentially 5 points on deck. So definitely do like this one a lot. We have seen it just consolidate. We do have a bull flag here on the daily. It just has to get through 327 to kind of break this hourly consolidation, right? It's got to get through 327. If we can, 330 should be able to come. Over 330, we could see a large breakout. So definitely will be a favorite. And then Netflix, it's all about 450. So we're back in this key range. Every single time we've tested 450 in the last few months, we haven't been able to actually get through and sustain a move above. Okay, we do have a gap fill from 458.50 to about 507. Okay, and that gap fill actually is a little bit less than that. So now it's about 485 to again about 509. So yeah, 450 is going to be a huge spot. I like Netflix in both directions off of 450. Okay, so if Netflix doesn't get through 450, we see it tested multiple times, it can't clear it, then puts will be in play for a reversal. But if we can end up, clearing 450, we hold higher lows, right? We see buying volume come up above 450, then a breakout will be in play. So with this name, unless we don't, unless we have a catalyst on it, I will be very patient with an entry on it. I think the first break can be a trap unless, again, we have a catalyst on it or the overall market just continues to rip higher. But I will be looking for, right, more back testing, some higher lows, right, maybe a daily close above. But I will be patient with this name at 450 because, again, every single time that we've popped into 450 since June, we have ultimately failed. I mean, we ended up breaking out here off our earnings, right? Couldn't hold, and then we ended up getting crushed. Okay, and then again here, back in September, we push higher, and then we end up making, right, breaking down at about 344 there. So yeah, this is a huge spot for it. If we do hold 450, ultimately this thing can set up for a push back into 500. So yeah, again, be patient with it. I don't think you'll be able to, really miss out on the move because if the move is actually going to happen above 450, this should be able to run, at least 20, 30 points. So the move will be there, but again, you do want to be patient at this huge psychological level of 450 on Netflix. All right, so that's it for the main list of names that we're keeping an eye on. We do have a couple others, like I'm going to be keeping an eye on Google. I will be keeping an eye on AMD and NVIDIA for sure. AMD has just been, continuing that breakout off of earnings, and we are back up into this 120 range. So we were able to get through 112, did take some time to kind of hold and sustain this move, and then Friday was the big move, and we ended up seeing a move up into 120. So for the most part on that reclaim of 112, right, I was mentioning that we can see it push into 118, 120, and we were able to get there on Friday. Now, I would like to see AMD see a bit of consolidation before clearing 120, but if we can get through 120, we do have this local high of about 122, and then ultimately about 125. So definitely do like AMD, but I do want to see it consolidate just slightly. And then Amazon, this is all about 145 at this point. All right, actually, excuse me, 143.65. Yeah, 143.65 is going to be the main level to clear. And notice that candle from Friday, that high is 143.65. Okay, this high here of back in August is about 143.63. So 143.65 is going to be the main spot to get through. If we can get through, we do have 145 and that local high back in September 14th, which is 145.86. So yeah, definitely do like Amazon. Yeah, keep an eye on this one. This actually will be on watch for me tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, definitely do like this one. And then Apple is not really my favorite. I would like to see a pullback on that as well. And then NVIDIA, this thing should ultimately be set up for 500 again. It just has to base above 480. And then Tesla, we'll give that some time. That's a little messy. PayPal is another name that I do want to keep an eye on over about 55. So I am going to add some alerts, but if PayPal can reclaim 55, should be able to see a decent little pop. We're still holding, that earnings move above about 54 there. So you do want to see it reclaim 55. Alrighty. So I think that is it for all my favorite setups. Boeing is another good one. I'm waiting to see ultimately what that does at 200 though. So I'm going to put some alerts on that. Yeah. And then Baba has earnings this week. That will also be interesting. Let's do that. All right. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Sorry, excuse me. Let's actually talk about SPY and QQQ. Got ahead of myself there. So SPY and QQQ. All right, Friday finally we were able to clear that 437.20 mark. this was definitely giving SPY a little bit of hardship. As we can see, Monday we had that inside day. Tuesday we tried to get through, couldn't get through. Wednesday we tried to get through, couldn't get through. Thursday we ended up seeing a pretty significant pullback, and then Friday just ended up gapping up, and we never looked back, and we closed, at the highs. So closed at 440.61. So with SPY, it's all about 440 and 437.20. Okay, all about this range. So I definitely do like calls if it holds 440, but if we see a pullback tomorrow and we don't sustain 440, then puts can be in play. I do believe it'll probably be a little bit of a slower put play as, the bulls and the bears battle it out. But under 440, I do like puts for a pullback into 437.20. And if we can hold 437.20 again, then calls would be in play. The one thing that I would have liked to see on Friday of last week is an actual pullback into 437.20. We did have a slight consolidation here on the break, but we ended up just clearing it and we rallied. There was no real, higher low at 437.20, which would have really set this up for just a healthier move. So for this week, if we do see a pullback into 437.20, I would look to see what the price action is to consider calls for a bounce there. Or if we can hold 440, I think this sets up for another 2 to 3 points into 442.30 and then 443.30 as well. Yeah, really nice move on SPY. I just want to see it hold 440 ultimately. Okay, so that is going to be the main focus. Under 440, again, 437.20 is the range. So in that 2.80 cent range, it can be choppy. Okay, so again, I would look for a fade off of 440 if the price action is there, if we're seeing lower highs to lower lows. But if the momentum is lacking, then you definitely do want to sit on your hands and wait for either the break of 440, the back test of 437.20, or a breakdown back under 437.20. Okay, because we do have CPI this week, we do have PPI this week, so the market will most likely be waiting for this data as well as to hear what the Fed speakers have to say. So if we end up breaking back under 440, again, we could look for a fade, but ultimately be pretty patient and then just wait for momentum. Okay, this is a huge spot with SPY, so we definitely want to make sure that the buyers are present before looking for a continuation on the breakout. Now, QQQ. So QQQ here, we are breaking out of this downtrend, right? We're able to clear it there on pretty much Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday showing the time back testing it, and then Friday we ended up seeing a large breakout. So with QQQ, I want to see it over 378 for continuation. Okay, and this closed at 378.39. So as long as QQQ can hold 378, I think we could see 380. If we end up clearing 380, there really isn't much resistance until about 385 to this high of July 19th. And that high, to be exact, is 387.98. Okay, so if we get through 380, I mean, we could potentially run, 5 to 8 points. So this is also a huge spot for QQQ, and I do want to see it hold 378. If we lose 378, if the buyers don't have enough strength to sustain that level, then the next area that we could see is 373.80. Okay, which again is that high from October 12th. Okay, so if we end up failing at 378, that would be an area I would consider looking for a back test. I'm looking for an entry on calls for sure. And if let's say we start with a gap up, I would look for a breakout over 380 for that continuation. And if we do get through 380, I'm looking for another 5 points to potentially, again, 8 points. So yeah, definitely like the look of QQQ. But again, if we fail at 378 and then we don't hold 373.80, then we could see an actual pullback, okay, on QQQ. So as long as we can hold those two levels, I love the market for continued upside. Okay, so again, big week, a lot of data that's coming out, so be patient, pay attention to the data, wait for that intraday momentum, and let's have a great week. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Take care.